It's time for today's episode of the UGA Sports Live Podcast, recorded in front of a slightly tipsy studio audience at world-famous Champy's Fried Chicken. We will have the latest on Georgia Bulldogs football, basketball, and recruiting. Watch live and send us your questions on the 11 Alive Sports page on Facebook. Be advised this podcast is off the record and not safe for work. Also, be sure to subscribe to the UGA Sports Live Podcast on iTunes and Google Play.
Hey everybody, welcome to the UGA Sports Live Podcast. My name is Rodney DeBulce. I'll be your host for the next hour or so. I'm joined by Jake Roos, the recruiting superstar hero at UGAsports.com. He's the savant. He's the prescient expert.
Wunderkind.
He's the guy that you follow when you want to know who's coming. I mean, he tells us about guys weeks and weeks ahead before anybody else, months sometimes before anybody else does. And all of a sudden, they're Bulldogs, and we don't quite know how he does it. I think he's from the future.
He's the Lawrence Welker of guys. Wonderful.
And, of course, with the invitations down there, we have we have Coach Jim Donnan, Hall of Fame coach, former UGA head coach. The main reason everybody's tuning in, you're tuning in on 11 Live Sports. It's on their Facebook page. If you're watching it right now, we really appreciate it. Give them a like. They don't ask anything. I mean, they put their credibility on the line each week, and they don't even ask us to ask for the like, so we're just doing that as a favor because, you know, they had a great video of Mecole Hardman getting drafted. I mean, nobody was there. They're at his house. You know, he's watching the draft. They got a camera on him, and the phone call comes in. Nobody knows this.
If you haven't seen it, you have to go watch it.
It's just the best. And then they tweet out, hey, he's about to get drafted. People are like, whoa, second round? Mecole Hardman? And sure enough, then, you know, they have the videotape. He gets the call, and he just breaks down, and his parents and everybody's going crazy. It's a great video. It's stuff like that. That's why we are partnered with 11 Alive. They have great instincts on where the stories are, especially when it comes to sports and news. So give them a big thumbs up if you would. We'd appreciate it. And, of course, shout out to Athens Ford, Aaron Overhead Doors, Your Pie, Academia Brewing Company, Cable East, 365 Game Day, and, of course, Champy's. We're here at Champy's on Baxter Street. We do the show here just about every week. This week we got the chicken tender basket out in front of us with their sweet heat. They make all their sauces here. You got to try them. If you hear crunching throughout the show, that usually means I'm in the middle of a commercial and my two co-hosts are killing the basket there. We also have the banana pudding that I will stab them if they reach for. So we have rules. The host gets the banana pudding. That's it.
I got you.
Anyway, the NFL draft finished up over the weekend. We had the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 7 Bulldogs drafted, a bunch of them taken as undrafted free agents. And I think we should we don't need to go into too much detail, but I think we should go over how the results of this and how these guys fared and what it means for Georgia. And, Coach, I know that last year you were really big on DeAndre Baker. I mean, 2 years ago you were big on him, but I'm saying there was all that scuttlebutt. Everybody doing stories about how he's falling out of the first round and, you know, greedy, Williams is better. And, you know, I don't mean to get into the weeds here, but I hate when I see all these stories talking about unnamed experts. We didn't do any of that stuff at UGAsports.com. We don't get into, well, so-and-so is saying that the gossip, the damn gossip, it drives me crazy that there are news outlets that run with this stuff as if it were real news. Like 2 days before the draft, you know everybody's putting out garbage beforehand. DeAndre Baker, the first cornerback to go, first secondary guy?
He was the first guy out of the secondary to go at number 30 of all places. So he goes, I mean, all that garbage about, he's got a bad attitude.
I think the main thing for everybody to just kind of take a deep breath on all these stories that happen, because some of it they put out, people put out, the teams put out stuff, to try to diffuse maybe the fact that they're as interested as they are. And then sometimes some of these websites do it, like I know we're all getting all shot in the butt about these preseason deals they're coming out with next year's group. Yeah. But I remember last year we were getting ready for this show same day, and they were talking about Nick Fitzgerald being a number 1 draft choice.
That's right.
And nothing against Nick, but you watch the guy. He's just he's a good athlete, and it's just a different level up there being a pro quarterback. And they also had Stidham going in the first round, who I think is an excellent guy, and Drew Lock. Yeah. We all saw all these guys play last year, but none of them made the first round. So it's hard to do, particularly as a quarterback. But getting back to Baker. I just think the fact that he was so well drilled, so well coached by Coach Tucker and Coach Smart, he knows how to play different coverages. He knows how to do things besides just play press coverage. He's very good at bail. He's a good run support guy. And it takes a really unique person to play corner in NFL. I mean, you're going against, particularly in the division they're in, you're going against some really premier players and some good coaching. The fact they're going against teams like the Eagles and the Redskins and the Cowboys, who all run multiple schemes that you got to defend against. So I was happy for him. He's a team player. He didn't play in the bowl game, and people got the wrong impression when he got the award. He said he was going to play when he won Jim Thorpe. He said he was going to play, and then he didn't. But it all worked out well, and Kirby was behind his decision, and it was just good to see him go. And I think it's indicative of what you're going to see from now on with our secondary, the way the kind of athletes we're recruiting. As good as he is, we've got guys that are, maybe even faster and a lot bigger than he is playing corner now. I don't know if they'll be in the top rounds. Who knows? But good choice taking Baker.
And I have to say, I spoke to a couple of new offers yesterday, including one defensive back, and that was the first thing he pointed to. I said, "What intrigues you about Georgia?" He said, "Hey, they were the only team to have a secondary player go in the first round." He said,
"DBU, watch out."
I mean, he said, that stands out to me. That catches my eye, and that's a huge way for Charlton Warren to get things started off. Obviously, his influence on Baker, not that great, but it puts that mark on the position, and it makes it it
helps the program. Like
Absolutely.
you said, when you have that situation, we saw that when it comes to running backs. Guys are watching Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel tear it up in the league. All their Rookie of the Week, Rookie of the Year awards and stuff like that. And people, if you're a running back, you're like, they had Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel. Three guys who shared a backfield at one point. And all of them are in the league. You're like, if you're Kenny McIntosh, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Georgia. Hell yeah. Well, why wouldn't I? And then
also Milton. Look at the guys we're having recruited. But I think the one thing that was very vivid to me, and I got to get the word in, our wide receiver room.
I know how much you love that.
Has to be have some neon lights in it from the standpoint. 3 receivers plus one was taken as Jason Stanley as a free agent. 3 receivers going out of your wide receiver class. Pretty impressive for a team, particularly that doesn't throw the ball predominantly. I mean, we're a balanced attack, but it just goes to show you that these guys know that they're getting guys in there that have been trained, that know how to read coverages, that know how to run routes, and they have the speed necessary to be players. Maybe it might have hurt Ridley a little bit, as he's not quite as fast as Stanley and Mecole and Terry Godwin, but I know I had a little bit of exchange with, not dropping names, but how impressed Andy Reid was with the kind of character that they're getting with Mecole, and with the situation with Tyreek Hill right now. That every team, not just the Chiefs, they're looking at these issues because if you just look at their team, as good as they were last year, 2 of their big bell cows they lost because of off the field situations. Hunt, who had a situation in the previous season where the video came out, the running back, and they had to let him go during the season. And now Tyreek Hill, who knows what's going to happen with his situation. So, but I think that of all the places he could have gone, Mecole, he's going into a deal where pass catching is important, but they use all kind of jet sweeps. They use a guy back there to run the wildcat, which he's very good at. We didn't use him much last year with it, but he played quarterback in high school. And if you just talk about a meeting of the minds, a good union, that was it with Mecole in Kansas City, who's very, very good at taking care of getting the ball to their playmakers. And as we've mentioned on the show many times, Andy has one coach, and I'm sure maybe some other guys do too, but he has one coach that his sole prerogative all week is just to study college films and see what college teams are doing. in case they could add something to their offense that maybe the pros aren't. That he's always coming up with. If you watch their team, they're very. And they've got a guy in Patrick Mahomes that can really make a lot of plays. But Andy Reid's very
get ready for Mahomes, and here comes your boy Mecole. That'll be fun.
Well, he can jump in there and take. We know that he's great at returning kicks, and the thing that's so impressive about his kick return deal is the fact that he didn't ever get that many, but when he did, his average per return is unbelievable. He can make the first guy miss, which is a paramount thing in any punt return. If you can get through the first guy, and we're going to miss that next year. I think hopefully we'll develop somebody, but it's just a skill. Yeah. First of all, to have the just the ability to take the ball in the air and take it back.
Brandon Boykin had that skill in heaps. I mean, the first guy never tackled. Now, he might only get 5-7 yards sometimes, on a really high punt, but it was never the first guy. And that juke, it worked out for him in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if I was coaching the NFL, I'd go to Canada and try to get some of those guys because they don't even have you can just get close as you want to on them. But those guys are life or death every time. Hey, do you want to return punts? Well, not today, Coach, if I can help it.
Well, and you point out Mecole, and we talk about the wide receiver room. Georgia, the only school with 3 wide receivers drafted in this draft.
This is a running back school.
This is and this is the all they do is run. There's no passing game at Georgia.
You've had recruits say that.
Absolutely.
And then to be the only school to have 3 guys taken in the draft, 3 receivers taken in the draft, and one as an undrafted free agent. And here's the thing: Jason Stanley's going to be able to make money.
Oh, I think so too.
I don't know that. I don't know he'll make a roster. He'll be on a practice squad somewhere.
I agree.
He could be a journeyman 5 years, 7 years.
And I saw the Falcons. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he was
might
listed.
play him at corner.
He was listed as a corner with
because he's so good on special teams.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the one thing that people that listen to our show got a little advantage because we harp on the fact that these guys, we use those speed guys, and they're really trained and they get a lot more physical because they're on special teams. But that's what helps build your receiver guys up is the fact they get a chance. We're going to see Kearis Jackson. He's going to be a great special teams guy, not just returning kicks but covering, and the same thing with a lot of these guys. And I think that helps get you on the field plus get you on the bus. But if I'm a scout or if I'm a pro evaluator, I see this guy. You want to project them on your team, but you also want to project them. How can they make the team if they're not a great receiver? Like the guys we got. But if they can be on a 53-man squad and be special teams, man, that's big.
Anybody surprised that Mecole was the second Bulldog taken? I admit that I was. I was not expecting him to be the second guy off the board. I thought Ridley would probably go ahead of him. It wouldn't have been a huge surprise, I guess, maybe to see somebody take a flyer on DeAndre Walker. It seemed like people were really getting high on him with the lead up to the draft.
I think the injury hurt Walker a little bit. He didn't get to project his true skill level because from the eyeball test, not going through the deal in Indianapolis and not being able to work out full speed really doesn't show everybody. And you guys get to go watch these kids at these different combines, which I think is very good, and it gives our listeners a lot to show about because you eyeball test them. But I feel a lot better watching the tape is one thing, but watching a guy on the hoof and seeing what he can do and translate that to your specific skill needed for your team, I just think that hurt Walker a little bit. But I think the way Mecole tested his not only his ability to do a very good job on the speed aspect, but his shuttle run, his quickness was very exemplified there. And they got to see him catch a lot of passes that, you watch a tape, the guy, what did he catch, 30-some passes last year or something like that? But you watch him in one of these pro workouts, he's going to catch 100 passes, and they throw the ball behind him everywhere else, and you get a good read on it.
And it's a different ball. People don't understand this. It
is different.
It is different. It has a different feel to it. It comes in a different velocity. You see guys like what they go to the Georgia Pro Day and you see a guy who's pretty fantastic. All of a sudden he drops a couple. You're like, what's going on? And then the quarterbacks are working out with these balls because you got to throw a different ball. It is.
And I tell you, anybody that says that it's not different, is wrong.
Just tell you.
And I'm just going to tell you a real quick story. My coach in college was going to switch from a Wilson ball to a Spalding ball my senior year. And the equipment manager told me that, and I went up to him. I said, "Coach," I said, "I've been here for 3.5 years." I said, "Please don't change to that ball." He was going to get some golf clubs and all that stuff out of it, which is back then.
Sure.
And he said, "You can't even tell the difference." I said, "Coach, let's just go sit down and go downstairs right now. You put the balls there, and I'll put my hand on it, and I can tell you which one's which and how important it is to me." And not that he was going to do that because of me, but I went downstairs, and he did that to me 5 different balls change. 5 different
Switch 'em
times
out.
I had to do it, and I got the Wilson ball every time.
Wow.
And it's just because you got a feel for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way it is. The thing that used to really chap my butt was when we played in the 1AA playoffs, they had a rule from the NCAA that we had to use Rawlings balls. Now, Rawlings got a lot of good baseball equipment on them, but their footballs are Jed clamping. And we had to switch. We had to switch after using a Nike or whatever we were using during the season. For the playoffs, we had to go to a Rawlings ball. Every team in the playoffs had to use it. And, boy, it's a different situation. But I'm going to get off my high horse.
That's good stuff because it's things people don't realize.
Well, quarterbacks are crazy people, and they really are. And the time they spend with the ball, I mean, you see them. They come to camp, they just sit there and they'll spin it in their hand. Yeah. They'll just play with it.
Well, a lot of guys,
and they got the feel.
We always
for
have
it.
fun sometimes because you tell a lot of the quarterbacks when they come to camp, bring your ball.
Yeah,
Bring
Right.
yours so you can throw it. And then I remember when we were at the Nike thing, they had some grueling thing. A quarterback had to go through all these different spots, and they had circles that would light up, and you had to hit the circle that lit up, and you only had a few seconds to do it. A gauntlet, I think they called it. And there was a local kid, who went through it, and just everyone thought this guy's a 5-star. He bombed. He absolutely bombed. And he came off, and we're like, what's wrong? He goes, "I can't throw those balls. I hate them." And now here's the thing: we didn't bang him for it, but it was he just
It is different.
the Nike ones that we had, it was a Nike ball, of course. Like,
And you watch a
these
game.
are horrible.
Fans should watch a game, and it always just mystifies me when you look and see those close-ups of the footballs and the different kind of balls that guys will use. Not just the fact they're Wilson or Nike or whatever. And some of them look like they were played in World War II.
yeah.
Some guys like a ball that's really roughed up,
Yep.
and of course the NFL's got a rule you got to use these new balls, but I'm just telling you now, some of these balls that some of these kids are using, and particularly the kickers, they got the kicker ball that thing is golden. I mean, Rodrigo has got one in a chest that he uses, and these guys they go, if you kick that same ball every time. I mean, that's it. And the same thing with football. I mean, just look at it sometime. How old some of those
you had
balls.
the whole thing about the deflate gate. Guys like their things a certain way. The reason we get off on that tangent is talking about Mecole Hardman catching passes all around him. They got to work him out with an NFL ball. He did really well in the tryouts and trials and tribulations. Now I know that you spoke to. I know you won't drop the names, but you spoke to a lot of head NFL coaches about these guys. They call you and get your opinion. And see, here I was thinking I was Johnny, superstar because I had scouts calling me beforehand. Now
Well, they do.
Now none of them call me and say, "Hey, Roddy, what do you think of DeAndre Walker's, get off, his second step?" They know I don't know that stuff. But they're looking for a reason not to draft a guy.
course.
They're like, "Hey, so when this kid got in trouble back in such and such, what happened then?" So they hit me up from a news standpoint. Okay, you've been following this kid for how long? Well, since he was in 8th grade. What do you know about his character? To Coach's point earlier, I didn't want to when Andy Reid's reaching out to you about Mecole Hardman and he's had situations where they've lost guys to off the field issues. And I know others, but I'll be the first to say the NFL would take a mass murder if they think it's going to win them a game, But we're going into a different thing now where the last thing you want to do is have a guy bumped off your team. Hey, they brought Michael Vick back. They will take a guy. So I'm just saying, until a video comes out, this guy's playing.
In the case of Andy Reid, though, just to make sure, they had already taken Mecole. I'd sent him some stuff earlier,
Right.
but they were taking him based on what they knew. But then he just reiterated to me after the kid came for the visit. They brought him in on the announcer signees, and they were really impressed with the way he handled himself, which I thought be something that our fans would like to know.
No, I
the
agree
fact
with you.
that
But before they're making the picks, they're reaching out to guys like me saying what, and it's not the head coaches, just not even the head scout, way down the list, the guy who has to do his homework, make sure there's nothing going to bite him. And the reason I bring that up is because I think if you take in a DeAndre Walker, you got a good character guy. You're getting, you're getting a Lamont Galliard, great character guy, good teammate. Ledbetter had an issue in high school and in college. They check on that, and I'm like, look, it was this tiny little thing. They're like, okay, they don't care.
How about Jay Hayes going too? I mean, I think that's great.
That's fantastic.
And we talked about the fact that he got involved a little bit in the system change where he went to a 3-4 from a 4-3, and he's got a lot. We talked about him all summer. We thought he's going to be a lot better for us than he was, but he did provide some leadership, and he made those kids work hard. But I think he can make a team because he's a 4-3 guy, and every 3 or 4 years, you got to tell the Andy Reid story in case somebody hadn't really. But when I was coaching at Oklahoma and Andy was coaching at Missouri, we used to go up to Kansas City to the Chiefs, and we'd also go to some different, to Dallas and watch these teams practice. But it just so happened we were there the same day. And Andy's kind of a jovial old guy. He's always telling stories and everything. And he said, boy, this is great. We just come up here and get to study football. And said, I love it. He said, it's awesome. And I said, yeah, it's good. I like to watch these guys. He said, what are you doing up here? Y'all run the wishbone and everything. I just said, I just like to keep up with everything, in case something happens. And he said, yeah, that's great. He said, hey, you never know what's going to happen. He said, one day, one of us might be the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. And the day he got the job, I sent him that. I said, you remember when we were in Kansas City in 1988 and you said that? I said, you really were clairvoyant, man.
It's like Jake and his predictions on which recruits Georgia's going to get.
I wanted to point this out from our guy, Dave McMahon over here. I thought this was just a really cool stat. And I thought that there's also just – the teams that are taking these guys, we're seeing them kind of return to Georgia time and time again. And he pointed out that for Kansas City, this was their sixth, I believe. Yeah, the sixth Bulldog picked by the Chiefs. Prior to 2011, they'd never picked one.
What?
Prior to 2011, Justin Houston was the first Georgia player the Chiefs ever took in the draft.
Like he was any good.
And since that time, they've taken 6 guys. I think that that's a good reflection on what they think of the program as well. You got guys like Chris Conley who've been there. Rameek Wilson came through there as well. They kind of know what they're getting with a finished product from Georgia, and I think that they had to feel good about that with Mecole as well.
Right, and I think without getting on the Kirby bandwagon too much, that has been brought up very similar to what Belichick tries to teach in his practices, because of Saban and all that. I mean, that whole tree goes out, and these guys know that they're going to get kids that know how to work, know how to practice, and be developed, So it's something that's going to help us in recruiting too, because you're going to be putting guys in the league. It's going to hurt us a little bit because we're going to be letting guys out early, but we're not going to.
The list of number of guys drafted. Scroll down.
Yeah, so
we don't want to eliminate people. We talked about Harmon.
All right, so 2010 through 2019, you've had 52 total NFL draft picks for Georgia, 9 in the first round. Go back just the last decade, 2000, 2009, 56 total draft picks and 10 first-round picks. There was a guy who was evaluating talent around that time.
Yeah, I got to wonder. And just to give you an idea, so in 2017, just a few years ago, Georgia had one guy taken.
Yep.
4th round, wasn't it?
Yeah. And
Isaiah?
Yep. Isaiah McKenzie.
Yep.
Last year, 9. This year, 8. 7. Well, it's going to be 9 guys go pick up as undrafted free agents. It's going to be at 6 and 7.
We had three guys free agent, 4 free agent.
I was starting to get my free agents.
We had Patrick.
You got Stanley to the Falcons, Elijah Holyfield to Carolina, John Ledbetter to the Dolphins, Natrez Patrick to the Rams,
5.
Nick Moore to the Saints.
We had 6.
And Jay Hayes to the Steelers.
So we had basically 13 guys.
Yep.
13 guys. So, that's not too bad. Just to give you an idea. Speaking of big numbers, I want to give a shout-out to our folks at Athens Ford. Remember last week I was telling you how many they had, 48 different Ford F-150s and 50-something Ford Explorers. If you go to the top of their website right now, it says 935 vehicles available. I think they heard our ad last week. Said, hey, we need to illustrate that. No. If you go out there, if you swing by Athens Ford, it's going to be a fantastic experience for you. You're going to enjoy the actual sales experience. And, again, it's the only place you can go and get a lifetime powertrain warranty on any vehicle you buy, new or pre-owned. Pre-owned so long as it's under 80,000 miles. I doubt they have any that are over that. But so you get a lifetime powertrain warranty on all the vehicles out there. It's fantastic. Also, they have a get cash now option. You get an instant cash offer. So you can turn your car into cash right now. Just walk out there. Those folks will take care of you. Of course, they got the Explorers, the F-150s, 250s, Mustangs, Escapes, more vehicles you can shake a stick at. The reviews are through the roof. On Cars.com, they are 4.7. On Google, 4.5 stars. Dealer rater, 4.9. Again, if you go out there and you're like, I like this F-150, I want it with this trim package, and I want it in purple, hell, they probably got it. I'm just saying. When you go out to the Athens Ford, 935 vehicles available. But it's not like I went to a Kroger store not too long ago that you needed a scooter to get around.
No, absolutely.
It was ridiculous, But you don't get that feel when you go out to Athens Ford. It's like, yeah, they have 935 vehicles, but it's not this giant showroom where, it feels impersonal. It's a very tight place. All the offices are right up in the front. And then when you tell them what you're looking for, they take you out to where the cars are. It's not you don't feel like you're going through this parking lot of vehicles and you don't know where anything is. They're going to talk to you, narrow it down for you, and help you out. So get a chance, swing by Athens Ford.
We need to hit those other and make sure we don't slough off and not give them credit.
Well, let's just talk about these fits real quick. Riley Ridley to Chicago. I like that one. I think that he's a good receiver for them. They like those big physical guys, not necessarily burner types. They've taken a lot of those guys. Obviously, they like what they got in Roquan Smith and Leonard Floyd, so and Javon Wims as well. So.
And they like structured route runners. I mean, Nagy comes from the Philadelphia Eagle tree. Then he went out to Kansas City with Coach Reed. They like a guy that can run the route tree, and he can do that. And he's just not a guy that's been a straight line RPO guy coming out of high school and college. He can run routes, and the other thing that they're very physical with their receivers too. He'll be a good blocker for them. I think as good a situation was for Miko. I think Ridley Bears is perfect, and he's a steal in the fourth round.
That's my thing. Your question was, did anybody think Miko Hardman would be the second Bulldog taken? Well, I know a lot of people were high on Walker. Riley Ridley was my either number one guy or number two guy. I'm not saying I'd taken him ahead of Baker, but if I had need at wide receiver, more so than a guy in the secondary, I'd have jumped on Riley Ridley. The fact that he went in the fourth round. Hey, the Bears get a great deal on a Bulldog again. So that's
kid
a big one.
too.
And just look what his brother did. Not to say that's you can compare, but his brother as a rookie, 10 touchdowns.
Absolutely.
On a team with Julio Jones and Sanu. So that is a guy.
Gonna get the ball more with Julio out there though, but I think its speed is going to be something that he's going to always not be the guy that can just blow past you, but he's so instinctive and he's got such good hands.
And he's open.
He'll catch a lot of red zone touchdowns too.
How about a fifth round DeAndre Walker to the Titans? Like I said, I thought that this was a steal for them. I think that DeAndre Walker is a guy with a ton of upside. As you mentioned, hampered a little bit by that injury. I love that he's got a defensive coach in Mike Vrabel who's going to be over him in Tennessee. I think that it's a really good fit and a good place for him to flourish as well.
I tell you, Mike Vrabel is a coach's coach. I mean, we watched him play. He was a great player for the Patriots. Then he got a chance to get in there and do a little college coaching at Ohio State, his alma mater, and then he went down and coached with the Houston Texans, and now he's a head coach. And I've been around him some in situations that you find out what a guy's all about. I watched him at a camp one time. And, just from afar, and he's a big pro player and all that. And a lot of those guys are just signing autographs and everything. This guy was right out there with them, holding the bags, going through doing everything. I mean, he's just He's just a blue-collar guy. I really like Mike Vrabel.
He was one of those guys that even back watching him in the league, I remember when he was playing with the Pats, you had the feeling that he was going to be a coach someday.
Every pass he ever caught, too, was a touchdown.
That's true. He's got incredible right there. In the 6th round, new head coach Cliff Kingsbury of the Arizona Cardinals takes a new center for his first overall draft pick, and that's Lamont Galliard.
Who's too short to play center, remember?
Yeah. I think that this one's just going to be a time will tell situation. I think Lamont's a good player, certainly, but they're putting in a whole new system there. And
the thing that's good for him, though, going there is the fact that he's going into a deal with where they're going to run so many RPOs and so many things to augment Murray that he won't have to learn a whole lot, because I think they'll be very simple in their approach to different fronts and everything. They won't have an abundance of different kinds of pass protections and all, because they're going to be so geared into these RPOs. So that's a good lick for him getting with that team. I think when you can go with into a college system, which he was in, and our system was probably a little more complex than Texas Tech because of our running game too. So he'll be a good zone blocker, as I've said before. He can reach a guy, and he'll make a team. He's just solid as a rock.
I mean, how many times do you remember a mistake that Lamont Galliard made?
Yeah, not frequently.
I'm just saying, again, I'm not saying that gets you, 6th round pick, 7th round pick. I'm just saying, if you know what you're getting from a guy. With DeAndre Walker, there's a ton of potential.
Mm-hmm.
Lamont Galliard isn't going to all of a sudden become a Pro Bowler. I don't think he's going to get better. But you know exactly what you're getting. When you put him on the field, you're going to get the same consistency. And I think sometimes if you're in the NFL, you're like, the consistency, if I know exactly what I'm getting from this kid on every play, I know how I can run. I know what to run.
Plus, when you get elected to the all-SEC team by the coaches,
yeah, that's respect,
who study the tape, and you get coached by Sam, you know that you're going to know how to make it up there.
2 7th-rounders for the Bulldogs this year. Isaac Nada goes to the Detroit Lions, and then Terry Godwin to the Panthers. I really like the Nada fit with Detroit. I think that's a place where he can have some time to develop. They've got some options there at the tight end position. It'll give him some time to kind of come on, develop some rapport with Matt Stafford. Good for him to be around another Bulldog as well, I think. So
Matt throws to tight ends.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm happy about just the fact that Isaac got drafted. I think his times didn't help him, as far as the testing, but people don't realize the intangibles he has, the leadership he has, the way he guts it out and works hard. He'll be as good as he can be every down. He'll be a good special teams guy. Put him
on kick coverage.
He'll make it up there. And they drafted a tight end in the 1st round, so they're going to have. But they've traded a couple too. So I think having Stafford there will be good too, because he can show him the ropes and everything. And he's going to a coach that's defensive oriented, and the fact that they've changed in their offense. They let Jim Bob Cooter go, so they're going to have a different style. They're going to be more geared toward maybe the Patriots stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in. But I like him. And then Terry, to me, is just the kind of guy that every team needs. He can make the play when he has to, and he probably didn't get near as many chances as he would have at other places. But the guy can be spectacular. Look at the Notre Dame catch. Look at his ability to catch and run with it. And he was hampered a little bit last year with a leg situation all the way through fall camp, so we put him behind. But he'll be good up there with Cam Newton. He'll make that team, and he'll do a good job. And, I think the fact that he's such a fast guy to go with his route running ability, it should be impressive.
I think that he's got a very favorable depth chart working for him too. They haven't had a lot of guys who've just jumped out and seized the opportunity. They've been looking for a go-to guy in Carolina, it seems like, for a long time. You got DJ Moore, Jarius Wright, Torrey Smith is a guy who's been around several stops in the league. Chris Hogan was with New England, made an impact for them, but is he a journeyman type of guy?
They picked up Samuel.
Hogan? Yeah, Curtis Samuel's a guy who hasn't probably worked out how they had hoped right off the bat. So I think that he's got a good depth chart, good chance here. Like you said, I think he's got a real shot at making this team.
I had someone ask me, they were like, why did he go so low? I'm like, look, getting drafted doesn't mean you're going low. It means there's only
it's hard,
7 rounds, 32. That means to be drafted is
Go try.
Yeah, it's the same thing when it drives me crazy when someone complains about a kid being in the Rivals 250 and he's like, well, he's 213. That's terrible. I'm like, there's 3 million high school football players, and we're going to
go into that recruiting here in a minute about what's available. But I think, we got those guys like Elijah that it didn't work out. His testing didn't help him, but he'll be a hammer and tong guy up there. And when he gets into their mini camp, they'll be saying, "Holy moly, boy, what a steal this guy is." Jay Hayes the same way. I think Ledbetter's got potential, and Nick Moore can snap. I mean, that's big.
Who's the guy? Just wrapping up, I guess, our draft talk here. Who's the guy that you feel is in the best situation for himself? Who's the guy that you could see having, the most production? I guess even year one or beyond that.
Of all of them?
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go Mikkel.
I think that he's the logical choice because he has a ready-made role already in that offense with Hill.
Well, I'm just stealing Coach Donnan's thunder a little bit when talking about the guy being on special teams.
Yeah.
Here's a guy you can put back there, return some kicks and some punts, and all of a sudden, I'm thinking Isaiah McKenzie.
Sure.
Isaiah McKenzie got in there. He left kind of the last second. He had some academic issues and gets drafted in the 4th round. Everyone's like, oh, well, how's it going to work out for him? And I'm not saying he's as shifty as the human joystick, but he is bloody shifty.
Yeah.
He's tough to line up and get a hit on. Like you said, he makes that first guy miss.
Got that motor going, though.
Exactly.
And the same thing about Terry Godwin. I think they could use him returning kicks because he's dependable. He can catch the ball, and he can do a lot of things. But we'll see. I would say I would be surprised if all the 7 that got drafted, I would think that everyone would make the 53.
Yeah. And again, I think that I think Elijah's in a good spot. You mentioned him. You got Christian McCaffrey. He's obviously got the job locked down there. Behind him, Cameron Artis-Payne, Jordan Scarlett's a rookie, Reggie Bonifan, Elijah Hood. So there's some openings back there at that running back position in Carolina.
And he's unbelievable on special teams.
There you go.
The question that pops up, of course, we get all the time is the 4 juniors who left early make a mistake.
Yep.
Miko Hardman did not make a mistake. Riley Ridley probably could have gone higher, but, how much more could he have shown in an additional year? Elijah Holyfield should have come back, in my opinion. And here's the thing. Everyone's like, well, Isaac Nada dropped, 7th round. He was projected higher. I don't know that coming back would he have gotten faster in another year? Would he have – what would have happened if he'd come back another year, Coach? Well, what would he have shown NFL teams?
You just never know. But potentially, you read everything about our team, regardless of who writes it up or what the first thing they talk about is our offensive line.
Yeah.
That's the first thing they talk about. And you got the veteran quarterback, which we got, who knows how to get the team in the right play, which the right play for us a lot of times is a run. And you're just not going to get a lot of balls. You're just not going to get a lot of balls at tight end or wide receiver on this team.
If he'd had another 35 catches, would that have moved him up from 7th round?
Only thing would have moved him up is run faster.
No. That's my point.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I just don't see it.
I just don't see Holyfield getting as many carries as he got this year with Zeus coming up and with Cook developing
Completely
like he
agree.
has. So.
Yeah. Healthy DeAndre Swift is going to get fed. You feed that guy. You keep him. I know he's not the biggest guy out there.
He's not going to be playing that much either, too, against some of these teams because we're going to be lighting the scoreboard up. So I think they all made good decisions here. So, but we got that draft taken care of, and now we're getting ready to talk about.
Well, I'll talk real quick about Aaron over at Doors.
That's what I'm saying. I was bringing you into it, man.
I appreciate that.
Hey, you won't even let me segue to that.
No.
I see the teleprompter there. You got it all ready to go.
See, anticipating needs. That's what Coach Donnan does. That's what Aaron Overhead Doors does. When they come out to your place, they can tell you about issues that you might have down the road. Then come out and check out your door and say, hey, your motor's working fine, but this track system over here, because, having installed track systems, they're a nightmare. And when you're taking that door up and you've got one of them that curve at the top, when it comes into the straightaway, if it's off just a little bit, it doesn't work itself out. It gets more and more off. And then you get your door goes up halfway, and one of those rollers hits it stops. The motor feels resistance,
I think you
sends it
missed
back
your
down.
calling.
I've done this job. I know it's a nightmare. So I'm just saying, when you have a overhead doors issue, call Aaron Overhead Doors. They are it's a fantastic company, a great customer service company. They will take care of you. If you're got your phone out right now, it's 678-960-3360. You can call or text them. You can text them and say, "Hey, I need an appointment." You can also book it online. If you ever had that situation where you call somebody, you're like, I need to get my calendar out and then work it against their calendar versus my calendar. You don't need to do that. Just book it online. Just go in there and go, this is the time I need, and then they will come out at that appropriate time. Then they come out for free. I mean, what else can you ask? And if you need something really expensive done, they can finance it. So, I mean, in other words, there's no reason not to. They've come up with any possible issue you might have, and they've already addressed it before it has become an issue. And that's
if you look on their website, the other thing they do, I think it's impressive, is they can give you a different look than a regular door. That really blends in with your house, and that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
They have custom wood doors, and again, we talked about when they first came on as a sponsor. I'm like, most garage doors are ugly as hell. It's just
it's a necessary evil for most
giant
people.
Plants going across there, but you can actually get doors that look good.
Man, have you seen his garage door?
I don't even have one in my house. We had to make. Yeah, the vaunted UGASports.com offices are in a garage, a former garage. So, multi-million-dollar industry worked out of a garage.
I don't even have a house, so lay off.
The best thing about it, those guys are big Georgia fans.
Yeah, Ryan Lucia, a Georgia grad, and he's over it's kind of headquartered out of Buford. He's also a big Buford High School fan. So, if you're part of that whole Buford community and you're not using Ryan Lucia at Aaron Overhead Doors, you're doing him wrong. You're doing him wrong.
All right. A lot of questions rolling
let's
in
hit
here.
The questions.
Yeah, let's hop in.
Chris, y'all do that, and I'll eat the banana pudding.
They got I think we burned out our buddy John Paul Harris here with our NFL talk. Sorry about that, John. But Chris Metcalf wants to know: does Georgia expect any more attrition? Maybe from similar to what we've seen from Jaden Hunter. Obviously, he's put his name into the transfer portal. Are we gonna see some of these other guys kind of pull the trigger? Maybe moving toward the summer.
You never know what's going to happen. I read today where Washington's got two quarterbacks leaving. Jacob Eason, two freshmen out there. One of them was the coach's son, Sermon, who used to be at Mississippi State. Well, I think he's at Cal now. But so anyhow, Kirby, the day after the Monday and Tuesday after G-Day, has what they call these exit interviews, where he brings every player on the team in and talks about where you are, what you're doing, what you're going to do this summer, all that, how you stand on the team, which I think is good. Interact with with your other coaches, but as a player, but with the head coach is a big deal. So he goes almost 2.5 days full speed all day long with those guys, and some of them, I don't have privy to what happened. Some of them might feel like, well, hey, as much as I want to stay here, I mean, basically this is the way it stands, and he's not going to sugarcoat anything, but at the same time, he wants guys to stay here if they can and show that they want to keep trying. So it's just normal after you've been here 3 years. If the handwriting's on the wall, nothing wrong with you looking into that. And Jaden has been a Georgia legacy, his dad and everything, and it's too bad. But at the same time, he's got some good guys playing in his position, and we might see maybe a couple more and maybe come up, but I don't think it's because of the fact they hadn't had a chance. But that's hard to project. But
sure,
it's not fair for us to say so-and-so ought to enter the transfer portal because he's not going to.
I don't think he wanted names, but I think it would not surprise me to see maybe one or two secondary guys.
Yeah.
If you're in that secondary room, you've been there 3 years, and you're looking at the guys that just came in,
room.
You're going to be looking around. But again, this always brings up the fact the Tay Crowder of the world, a guy that we thought was transferring, a guy who disappeared for a while, flips to the other side of the ball, from running back to linebacker, then becomes your starting inside linebacker.
Got a chance to get drafted.
I think if you're not giving Tay Crowder credit, you need to, because that is a guy who
good team guy.
Good, exactly. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Mark Webb, same thing.
Roger Murray wants to know, so is Clemson the destination for Miles Murphy since he moved up his commitment date? That was a big story yesterday over on UGAsports.com.
Exclusive story at
UGAsports.com. Miles Murphy has announced that he is moving his commitment date up. He'll be doing it mid-May now during the spring game. You've got to feel
Says he knows where he wants to go.
He said he knew 2 weeks ago, and really for me that was the thing that pointed strongest to Clemson, because 2 weeks ago was when we really started hearing the Clemson chatter.
You asked him point blank about
strong.
And they just had a pretty good NFL draft.
Yeah, no doubt. So I do feel that Miles Murphy does end up at Clemson as of today. Would be surprised to see him go elsewhere. Auburn and UGA also involved in this, but I think that it looks like the Tigers. And look, it's like we said last week. Georgia fans expect that high-level running backs will come to the school because of their draft history at that position. Clemson now expects the same thing with their defensive line.
They're losing 3 to the draft.
Going to be tough.
You know, it's just like that James Brown record on the A side is I feel good, and on the B side is I don't feel good. And
This is a man's world.
I'm just not sure about Murphy. It's too bad. I mean, he's got all the he's just a good player, good person, and you can't get them all. But that's a tough deal. We'll see what happens. But I think the fact that he moved up, like you said, doesn't look good. But things change.
Dale Blackstock says, tell Coach Donnan Lewis Stewart of Simpsonville, South Carolina says hello.
How's it going, Lewis?
There you go.
That's nice of him.
Rick Martin wants to know.
We got Lewis listening in.
He says, Rick Martin says, do you think not winning a national championship is hurting UGA in recruiting? Clemson seems to be blowing teams away this year in recruiting. I will say to that, only one team ever wins each year, so there's all the other teams don't get to do that. But look at how some of these teams that didn't win are recruiting. And the team that comes to mind right off the bat is LSU. What they're doing this year is fantastic.
Scary.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You just picked up a
Wide
five-star commit from Antoine Sampa, one of the best outside-inside linebackers in this class. It's not a situation. It's not something that you can that you can't overcome, because there's only so many guys that each school can even take. So there's good players to go around. I don't think that it's anything that's
Here's the thing,
Georgia.
the way I see it with Clemson, and this is not like an excuse, it's the reality. Dabo's got a 10-year head start on us.
Yeah.
He's been the head coach there 10 years. And they struggled mightily early, and then they started building up. Then all of a sudden they got a $55 million building after they won a national championship, and all the facilities now are on the par with Alabama. We didn't win when we had a chance to. It didn't work out the second year with Kirby, but I do feel like that our squad, and we talked about this last week, that we challenged everybody to look at our team on the hoof at G-Day and to say when you left the stadium you had to be impressed with how we look on the hoof. Everything's ahead of us, whether we're going to be able to – our schedule, we got teams we're playing that are ranked in the top 10. Our schedule should help us, but Clemson has got it humming right now. I mean, Clemson and LSU – are challenging Alabama and Georgia in the recruiting as far as the classes. And the thing that hurt Clemson the last couple of years is their numbers as far as ranking in their class, because they had smaller classes. But
yeah, when you look at Clemson, they were recruiting well before they won a title. I mean, that's –
yeah.
So if you recruit well, you get a chance to win it. That's how it works. And dirty little secret time.
Which should make Georgia fans feel very good.
Exactly. I mean, you hate the fact you played for one.
Yeah.
Dirty little secret, when a kid is looking at colleges, the chance to win a national title is not in the top 2, top 3, top 4, top
playing
5. Playing time.
Degree.
Fit. Degree.
Go to the league.
Well, no,
That's what I'm saying.
In a lot of cases, I would agree with that. But in the case of Miles Murphy, that's not
degree,
the case.
Yeah.
He's going for industrial
the
engineering.
Clay Webbs, the guys like that. I get it. And the degree matters, but a lot of these guys, you have to play for your high school because of, where you're born, where you're going to school. You get a choice to play for the college. Your thought is, I'm going to college, I'm going to go to the pros. Who's going to get me there? How much playing time am I going to get? What's it going to be like? What's the fit? What's the campus like? The fact that, you want to play for a competitive team, but you're not going to a team. You're like, I'm ready to go. I'm a great tight end. I'm a pass-catching tight end. I'm going to go to a team that runs a wishbone because they're going to play for a national title. It's just not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So we told Keith Jackson at work, but I was but it was fortunate. It was fortunate. But I would want to say this today because I did some research about what's going to happen between now and the end of the school year for Georgia.
It's May or almost
Georgia
May. So what
staff,
happens?
and because I'm not as up to snuff with the rules as maybe I should be, but between April 15th and May 31st, there's a potential for 168 days that coaches from Division I teams can go on the road. When you have 10 coaches, so that essentially about 17 days apiece, but some of them might go a little bit more or less. But those are evaluations, and so if by the middle of May you've already used up 160 of them, that's tough. But you got to spread that out. So you got 168 days that your staff. So it's essentially, if everybody went out one day, then that'd be 10 days out of the way. See what I'm saying? So
basically 168 visits.
168
evaluations.
Where you you can go to 5 or 6 schools. It's like 12,
day on the road. Okay.
12 to 12. Okay.
Gotcha.
But the thing that people need to understand is when these guys go out, I read where Todd Hartley on our site was out in Las Vegas or he was up in Ohio or wherever he might be. They can go out and watch practice, evaluate, study players and all that, but you cannot visit with a kid that's a junior.
Yes.
Right.
You can maybe bump into him or the coach knows, but we don't have the ability to talk to him like we do at G-Day, you know what I'm saying? Because that's a violation. You can't do that.
Well, you tell them to call you when you leave. Just call me when I'm
Well,
gone.
you can do that. You can have them call you or to tell the coach have them, but we can't go out. But the thing that's really saying here is what our guys are needing to do is look. We know who the paper tigers are, the names that everybody knows, the Gilberts and all those, but there's some guys that maybe we thought were might be good, but how much have they improved from their junior to senior year so you don't miss out? So there's 2 things that coaches do. Like a guy like Sam Pittman will have the Athens area and the contiguous counties where every year he's going to go to those same schools and he knows those coaches. So if a guy's coming up like the kid at Athens Academy, the linebacker, he knows when he's in a sophomore. And then he has the national guys by his position that he's going to go see that he knows he's going out, just from the standpoint of that guy knows that Coach Pittman came here. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you got to balance it out, the evaluations, the hospitality part of going out and just servicing your accounts, and then you got to maybe go out and look at some maybe rising juniors or sophomores too, and all that's coordinated through Marshall.
We saw a bunch of offers go out yesterday to younger guys like that.
We
so you
even
can tell
saw
they're doing
a couple
their
2020 offers go out yesterday.
So that's what happens for our coaches between April 15th and now, and that's what they're doing. And Coach Smart can't go out, which is a bad rule. I think you should let the head coaches go, but they won't let them go.
Speaking of not bad things.
I'm trying to focus on Coach talking about 168 locations, but I'm looking at this Your Pie double bacon BLT sandwich. So we got the wonderful Champion's food in front of us, but this pizza at Your Pie just looks amazing with the lettuce, tomatoes, all the bacon on it, the ranch drizzle. And trust me, anybody that's had any of these specialty pizzas out at Your Pie, it's a craft series, and they actually have competitions. So come in because you can create your own, and they'll have people. They have competitions sometimes, and they say, look, come out and make a pizza, and if you think it's fantastic, submit it to us. They'll reproduce it in the offices over there on Millage. They have a little studio in there. They'll try it out, and if they like it, then they'll put it into rotation as one of their craft ones. But this one has the small tomatoes on it, the lettuce, the double bacon. It's phenomenal. There are 60 locations, 50 more coming. So if you get a chance, go to yourpie.com. If you want to know where one's nearby you, the first thing that pops up is the locations menu. Put in your zip code. It'll show you where it's at. You cannot get a better pizza. So swing by Your Pie. I also want to give a big shout out to Academia. We had a bunch of people come in for G-Day that tried them out. And they were hitting us up on Facebook, Twitter.
Taking it home.
Texted me.
Yeah.
They're like, this is fantastic. I see why they advertise on your site, or why you're such a big – we talk about them all the time. I'm not mentioning Academia because they pay to be on the spot. Well, we went out there, we ate out there, we tested them, and we're like, okay, we like this place.
Yeah, this fits with what we like.
If we didn't like them, they wouldn't be on the show. So When we talk about them, I guess they call it a endorsement ad or whatever. I mean, even though I do have my degree in advertising from Georgia, this is all new to me.
Yeah.
I had a guy reach out to me and says, you mentioned that you have a beer that you like more than Tropicalia. I'm like, yeah, it's a Hopra Digiac here. You know, I mean, what is that? Is that it?
This is Hopper. This is Hopper Digiac, but the Hopper Deity.
Hopper Deity is the one I like. The Hopper Deity. I must say, this is a new one there, but the Hopper Deity is phenomenal. Get a chance, swing out there. They have all their beer. You can walk in and take some home with you. Plus, you can try a flight. I was out there the other day, Tuesday nights, after we did the show, and there were flights everywhere where they bring out the little 4 beers in the little cups, so you can try a bunch of different ones. And every table I looked on seemed to have a flight out there. They also did a big charity event with the Sandy Creek Nature Center. So
they're always doing something like that.
A big part of the community. So, and it's the same with Your Pie. Your Pie is always doing a a profit night, where 10% of their nightly profits go to some charity. So, again, 2 great Georgia-based industries, restaurants, the owners of which went to Georgia. You're supporting Georgia grads when you go out to those locations. So big shout out to Your Pie and Academia Brewing Company, and thanks for the beer. Enjoying it.
All right, let's hit some quick ones here. Austin Springer with an interesting projection question. I think it's a very good question, though. He says, who do you think ends up with more snaps this season, Channing Tindall, Quay Walker, or Nakobe Dean? I'm going to go with Nakobe. I really think that he's ingratiated himself at this early on. Now, obviously, things can change throughout fall camp, but I like where Nakobe sits. I think that he's really impressed since getting onto campus, and I think that those first impressions matter a lot. Other thoughts? No?
Good answer.
Okay.
But who's playing beside him? Tay Crowder?
Yeah, and Monty
Rice?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Channing Tindall.
Oh man, for my money, he looks the best.
He
looks like a Madden creative.
Well, I'm just saying and then of course Quay Walker does amazing things. But I'm just thinking if you're looking at the guy who gets the most snaps, what are the situations that they are in the most? That's going to be a great question.
The thing that really helps Dean is he can come in the nickel and dime because he's so good at covering the pass.
That's a great point.
But don't sleep on Quay Walker, too.
Another good one here from Austin. He says, do you think that Isaac Nada could have had a successful career as a defensive end?
Yes.
I do. Yeah, he was really good there when he was in high school. I thought he was fantastic.
We still talk about that.
And Roddy could have been a successful advertising guy.
Could have been. I'm not one. And I want to give a big shout-out to our buddy Brent Rollins at Pro Football Focus. He sent us a note during the show, and because Pro Football Focus did a great job projecting where all these guys would go in the draft. And he said, he's listening to the show, so thanks, Brent. And he said, Coach's point about the only thing that could have helped Isaac Nada was to run better was 100% correct. The tight end is one of the hardest positions to project because of the low target numbers across the board compared to the NFL. And how they're used. That's why athletic testing at the position becomes premium.
Appreciate it, Brent. Way to back me up, man.
Yeah. You might know something.
Yeah.
Chuck Ward says, with Rakim Jarrett committing to LSU along with Jermaine Burton, who do you feel are the primary wide receiver targets for the Bulldogs this year?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's getting to be a very interesting situation because you've got those 2 guys off the board. Those were a couple. I felt much better, obviously, about Burton than I did about Jarrett. Ended up in Athens. I don't think Julian Fleming is going to end up in Athens. I think he ends up at Penn State. The guy that I'm probably watching the closest is E.J. Williams. I think that he's a guy who really fits in with what they want to do. I think that he's got a lot of high-level interest from the likes of Clemson, Auburn as well. But, grew up watching Georgia, grew up a fan of them. Look for E.J. Williams, 4-star receiver out of Central Phoenix City, Alabama. And the other guy I would look at.
You know who was a really good receiver out of Phoenix City that was played on the 1957 Auburn National Championship team, also played in the pros, was a great receiver?
I don't know.
Jimmy Red Phillips.
There you go.
From Phoenix City, Alabama.
Really?
The other guy, I'm just shooting in the dark on this one because I think the third spot is probably really up in the air. And very likely, I think that there will be a name that emerges that we don't have yet that that we're not thinking of. I would watch for Marcus Rosemey. I think that he's a guy.
I thought you were going to go Worsham.
Well, Daslin is. It's just tough with those in-state Alabama kids who are already committed. You don't flip too many of them. But Marcus Rosemey, I think, is a very interesting prospect here. I think that he's a guy who seems wide open. He is out of Miami area, Fort Lauderdale. A lot of people like him to the U right now, so we'll see. But I think that he's a guy who is intriguing, good blocker, and seems to really like Cortez Hankton as well.
How good was that quarterback that they just committed from Connecticut?
I don't know him very well. He's not a guy I've followed very well, but Mike Farrell said that he thinks that he's the best QB commitment in the state of Florida right now over Florida and FSU's commitments.
Oh, my.
So,
let me give from Ted Lasso. He sends a question on Twitter. Can you update me on Justin Flo's situation?
Yeah, so Flo, obviously 5-star linebacker out of Upland, California, one of the top 5 players in the nation. He's had Georgia in his top 3. Yes. He's named that several times. Really just, I think, a tough situation to pull a kid from that far away with all the interest that he has everywhere. I'm not saying that he's marking Georgia off by any means, but I caution people to be I don't know.
Optimistic?
Less than on that. I want to see it first. I want to see you pull a kid like Keely Ringo from across the nation. I want to see you pull a kid like that. I mean, I know you did it with
It'd be better if he was
Jacob
in
Eason.
Texas because Georgia's killing it in Texas.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's getting further and further away, and you're out to Texas. Now if you make it all the way to California.
I'm not writing Flo off by any means, though. Chuck Ward here with a good one for Coach. He says, do you think Kirby pays any attention to Dan Mullen continuously trying to bring attention to Florida by trolling UGA? Do you think bulletin board material really exists?
He doesn't say it publicly, but I think anything that, you go against your opponents, you certainly want to compete against them, and some things kind of gnaw at you. I think probably there's a lot of things Kirby's worrying about right now, and I'd say Dan Mullen's probably in the least 250th of them. But
that was like,
Kirby doesn't worry about things you can't control. That's what I really like about him. I mean, you drive yourself nuts worrying about stuff, but he's really a matter-of-fact guy. He's going to base it on what's going on. And, Mullen's trying to build a program. There's no question. That's what he's got to do. And if that's go talk at these bull gator clubs and do all that stuff. And like last year, he said a blind squirrel found a nut. Every once in a while he's talking about Georgia beating them and everything. But, I think he needs to find one of those squirrels that's found 9 of them because he's 0-9 against the guy.
I think that I got to tell you, though,
good coach.
I love it. And I love it. I think that there's nothing wrong with stoking that fire. That's exciting. That brings –
I mean, it's the rivalry. And, again, yeah. I love a good troll. And there are people that say, well, you can't troll a team when you've lost to them X number of times. I'm like, no, that's garbage. You troll them all the time because they're a rival. Just because they're up doesn't mean you don't.
If you can get in their head, that's the way to try it. But I just don't.
Because you hate.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, thank you.
I think he gets in their fans a lot worse than he gets in Kirby.
Yeah, but be smarter with your trolling. Don't do anything that can point back at you. Last thing you want to do is make fun of somebody for getting, they had somebody so arrested, and then the next day you're firing a member of your staff.
You keep up with the personnel, and, it looks to me like, everybody's talking about Florida with Felipe Franks and everything, but defensively they lost some really good players, didn't they?
They did,
did.
Absolutely.
They were loaded.
Chauncey Gardner, I think, is a guy who they put a big chip on his shoulder. I think,
and they haven't recruited like gangbusters either in the last 4 years.
They have not.
He's done a little better, but those last couple classes that Coach Mack had.
All right, I'm going to wrap up on this one. Tony Griffin says, if Georgia isn't the first choice of D-line recruits, aren't coaches going to have to go out and out-recruit and out-coach these guys and find some diamonds in the rough? I think you did that last year. I think that you did that with Jordan Davis. Mm-hmm. I think that you took a kid who a lot of people had offered but weren't exactly high on. I think that you took him. He played a lot of tackle in high school, didn't play a lot of defensive line, and had a great freshman year. I think that that's the kind of thing that you need moving forward.
Get a Tyler Clark drafted in the 3rd round, something
we
like that.
got some bodies coming in there this year that are going to really grow up and get bigger, and then we got Trayvon coming. I mean, I think he's a stud.
When he's your 2nd round pick, but again, that's 3 years away. But
that's the one area that we got to continue to work on. We're really doing well outside backer, defensive back, inside backer. We just got to.
You'll get them. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this week's show, folks. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday at noon on 11live.com on the Facebook page. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and Google Play. I think we're on Google Play. We better be on Google Play. Anyway, when you get a chance, tune in next week and ask your questions, and we will talk to you then.
Shout out to Cable East.
Good job, Cable East.
That's it for this episode of the UGA Sports Live Podcast. Tune in next week for more Georgia Bulldogs news and notes from Athens.